I am really pleased to be able to have Kara Odegard deliver a discussion about that Sustainable Action Plan. Kara?
Okay, well, thank you for that introduction. So you all know who I am, and I hope that you're okay with just taking a few minutes so I can know who you are. If I say something that applies to you, stand up. How many of you were born and raised in Spokane and have so far spent most of your life here? All of the above, born and raised and spent most of your life here. Carl? How many of you were born and raised, moved away for some time, and then returned? Keep standing, everybody. Those of us who've done that are called boomerangers. Hello, fellow boomerangers. How many of you were born and raised somewhere else but came to Spokane for college? Wow, I love that. How about you moved to Spokane to follow your spouse or a beloved? How many of you moved to Spokane to raise a partner or raise your children, children of the human or non-human variety, the four-legged furry animals that we love? And how many people have moved to Spokane for work? Is there anybody here that hasn't stood up yet? Okay, but can you stand up and say that you choose to call Spokane your home? Or are you visiting Spokane? Very good. Well, thank you for humoring me. I just wanted you all to take a look around and let you know that it's really good to be in community with you today. I think it's important to recognize what we've lost with COVID, and that's being able to be together. So thank you. I'm really grateful to be here and to breathe the same air with you. So before I go into the meat of my conversation, I wanted to spend a few minutes giving you a proper introduction as to who I am. I was born here in Spokane at Deaconess Hospital, which is the same hospital that my mother, Yvonne, was also born at. My mom is this beautiful woman in the top middle photo there, and I'm the youngest child on that pony, whose name is Silver Lady, or was Silver Lady. That pony belonged to my grandfather. And the picture here was taken at my mother's childhood home in Glen Rose. My grandparents, Al and Marguerite, are in the top left. And I'm certain that those of you who've been in Spokane for some time know the house. We now call it the Christmas tree, or the Christmas lighthouse in Glen Rose. The person living there is not related to our family, but has been very kind, letting us take a walk through and reminisce. But that's where my mom grew up, and that's where my grandparents are from. How many of you recognize the picture in the top right corner? That picture is taken right here in this cathedral. My parents were married in this cathedral. And I wanted to just point out the two pictures, or childhood memories of mine in the bottom left and bottom middle. And what's significant to me in this photo, especially the one on the left there, is my backyard was basically ponderosa pines and basalt outcroppings. And I remember there was one particular rock that had many dips and grooves, and my sister and I would often pretend that it was our kitchen and we were cooking, and it was a lot of great memories. And if you stood in my backyard and looked across the valley, you could see High Drive Bluff across the way. So we were basically looking at the opposite view as if you were walking on the bluff at High Drive. I can still smell those pine needles on a hot summer day. And in the middle bottom picture, that's my sister Katie and me, somewhere in the late 1970s, probably 78. That picture's taken at Riverfront Park. You can see, if you look really closely at the corner on the right, that's the IMAX theater. My mother tells the story I was born in 1973, the year before Expo came to Spokane, and my grandmother bought us season passes, and so we spent all summer, me and the stroller, walking through the exhibits. So that's a fun memory for me to share. And then lastly, in the bottom right corner, I'm proud to say that's my family. I'm 48 years old. We've come back to Spokane with my husband, Mark, and our two boys, Carl and Harold, who are now horribly embarrassed that I've put that picture up there. Every mother's superpower is embarrassing their children. What's missing from my childhood photos is any memory of time spent on the Spokane River. It wasn't until I spent 15 years away, returned, moved halfway across the globe, and returned again did I start a meaningful relationship with our river. This photo was taken in 2017, and that's me and my oldest son, Carl, on the rock there at Riverside State Park. After 5 years dedicated to sustainability here in Spokane, I often reflect on my journey and why I chose to come back and call Spokane my home. I believe in my heart that in some way it was the river that was calling me back home. It was also quite literally my mother. I'm in good company when it comes to inviting for care for our river. During her opening remarks yesterday, Dean Van Deventer recognized the central role that the Spokane River has played in the lives of the Spokane people since time immemorial. Dr. Moo also mentioned the importance of our relationship here in Spokane, both to the land and to the river. In 2020, the city's Sustainability Action Subcommittee conducted a community-wide survey to better understand how Spokane residents thought of climate and our environment. Over 1,400 residents responded to that survey, where we discovered something that you probably already know. No matter how people felt about climate change or other aspects of the environment, nearly everyone agrees on one thing, and that is that the city should take care and focus on maintaining the health of our river. You can see here that a total of 95% of the respondents responded positively to this question. So yesterday, Dr. Moo spent some time going over this information, but I think it's worth repeating. These visual graphics were actually created by students at Eastern Washington University in the graphic design department for this project. And what these graphics are representing is our situation if we do nothing to curb our emissions. If we do not change our behaviors and continue to emit climate pollution at the same rate we're emitting them today, we can expect that Spokane's climate is going to continue to change. We're already experiencing many of these impacts, including less snowpack, which is not only important for winter recreation, it's also essential for water storage that will feed our streams, lakes, and rivers. We expect temperatures to increase, especially during the summer, where we will be dealing most likely with increased wildfire smoke as well. I don't know about you, but this is not the future I wanted for Spokane. The good news is that since humans are mostly responsible, that means humans are also best suited to solve the problem. And I am here today to share with you how some humans, us humans, down at City Hall, in collaboration with hundreds of community partners, are planning on taking action. In 2019, Spokane City Council created the Sustainability Action Subcommittee. I'll often refer to it as the SAS. The subcommittee was created to help advise council on policy decisions surrounding climate and the environment. Membership of this subcommittee is made up of experts in many areas impacting sustainability. I've listed a few fields that are represented here, and as you can see, our membership has strong cross-sector representation in a broad range of categories. We are taking a holistic look at sustainability. We know that energy and the economy are inextricably linked. We also know that climate and the environment has varying degrees of impacts on people's health, depending on certain socioeconomic factors. You cannot separate the natural environment from our society or our economy, which is why we have this broad membership makeup on the SAS. We have also consulted with experts from other public and private entities, including STA, Spokane Regional Transportation Council, Spokane Regional Health District, Avista, local solar and biofuel experts, building engineers, architects, designers, ecologists, and natural resource managers, among others. At this time, I would like to ask if there are any past or current SAS members in the audience to please stand up. And I just want you to look around the room and give them a hand, because these people, yeah, they deserve this. These people have spent thousands of hours volunteering their time, and they are the reason I get up and go to work every day. I'm so grateful for you. The structure of our work is centered around these 9 work groups listed here, and each with its own focus towards researching and recommending strategies to support the subcommittee's goals. City Council President Brian Beggs, who's here with us today, he calls this the democratization of policymaking, where the public has input early and often. The primary task of the Sustainability Action Subcommittee, or the SAS, was to recommend an update to the city's 2009 Sustainability Action Plan, and to put us on a path towards accomplishing key local and state climate requirements. Most notably was the 100% renewable energy goal set by the city and supported by our local utility in 2018. The following year, the state passed 2 pieces of legislation: the Clean Energy Transformation Act, or CETA, which addresses emissions from electricity, and an update to the state's greenhouse gas reduction goals. In response to these laws, the SAS was asked to update the city's plan and to include actions to address climate change. The process took 2.5 years. It included over 50 official members of the SAS, 9 focus areas or work groups, and well over 1,000 of different voices and perspectives were heard. The purpose of this slide is to really illustrate to you the extent of the public engagement that went on for the final version of the plan. We initially released a draft version of the plan last April and spent 6 months engaging with community-based organizations, conducting workshops, and meeting with people to discuss the plan and to garner feedback. Raise your hand if any of you attended one of our events or participated in a workshop. I mean, look around the room, quite a few hands are raised. Again, something I'm very proud of, and thank you for providing your feedback. Just a quick shout out to the League of Women Voters, who participated in almost the entire 6 months and even provided us feedback on our workshops, so thank you for that. So after all that work, the 2.5 years, the City Council adopted our update to the Spokane Sustainability Action Plan. You can read all 80 pages of the plan at this and you can find it at this website, myspokanecity.org/SAS. But don't worry too much. There are lots of beautiful photographs and images, so it's not all text heavy, but I do think it's worth a look. The overarching objectives of the sustainability plan are threefold. First, reduce greenhouse gas emissions using a step approach over time so that we emit 95% less emissions and are carbon neutral by 2050. Second, our second goal is to build resilient communities by investing in actions to help Spokane adapt to future impacts. And because we know that climate change will impact people differently, our plan recommends prioritizing people and communities most at risk to the health and economic impacts related to climate change. To achieve our goals, we are taking action across these 7 sectors. 1, building and energy, transportation and land use, waste diversion and material conservation, water resources, economic prosperity, natural environment, health and well-being. This is a very comprehensive plan on what we think Spokane needs to do to be sustainable into the future. All strategies and actions identified in our plan have undergone a preliminary evaluation for expected greenhouse gas reduction impacts and against these 4 co-benefits: improved environment, economic opportunity, increased equity, and human health and well-being. Not all strategies outlined in this plan will reduce greenhouse gas emissions or have a big impact across all 4 co-benefit areas. However, we prioritized actions that scored high in 1 or more of these focus areas. Additionally, the Sustainability Action Subcommittee developed an equity review checklist early in our process. We encourage you to read through the equity checklist that's outlined in more detail on the plan itself. Equitable implementation is a high priority for members of our subcommittee, and it's also been identified as a priority for Spokane City Council. Since this Sustainability Action Plan is Spokane's first comprehensive, holistic plan, our number 1 priority with this iteration is to make sure that we are all walking in the same direction. And when I say we, I mean the city, the business community, nonprofit organizations, the faith community, schools and higher education, and all members of our community. The more support we have for this plan, the more success we will see in the coming decades. The City of Spokane cannot succeed in this work alone. Our success lies in the hands of community members, local businesses, and regional partners, which is why you will see so many of our strategies center on creating partnerships and collaborations. Together, we work smarter and more efficiently while building trust across sectors and amplifying our community's shared goals. So now I'm going to take a few moments to go through some of the higher level details of the plan, but give you kind of a taste of what's happening in some of these chapters. So the first chapter here is transportation and land use. We know that approximately half of our emissions come from transportation. And so you will find a lot of strategies in our plan to reduce vehicle miles traveled using land use strategies to try and place services close to where people live. We also are looking at promoting safe walking and biking options for people, because we know that if you don't feel safe on our streets, you're not going to walk or ride your bike. And we're also recommending partnerships and working with Spokane Transit to increase transit ridership. The second largest, well actually the largest in Spokane sector of greenhouse gas emissions come from our buildings, our built environment. So there are a lot of opportunities in the built environment to make some good progress. And this is why you'll find that we have several actions identified around energy efficiency, building electrification, and renewable energy. This is one of my favorite pictures here. Yesterday, we heard from Eric Mackinson, and he talked about the circular economy and about waste. This is another one of my favorite sustainable businesses. This is a certified B Corp. If you don't know what that is, I'd love to talk about that sometime. But this is a company out of Vancouver, BC called Sea to Sky Removal. And they are they're a construction waste management company that aims for zero waste. And their staff created this list of REs. When you think of reduce, reuse, recycle, in that order, right? Well, they have 7 REs before you get to recycle, when recycle is the last option. So I feel like this is a really creative way to get people to start rethinking the way we see waste. And that's exactly what we're doing with the sustainability plan. Rethinking our upstream production to reduce waste before it gets to us. And I always like to quote our education and outreach coordinator at the city solid waste department, Chris Major. She says the only good way to deal with waste is not to create it in the first place. And the last section I'm going to just talk about for a few minutes is the water and natural environment. And these are actually 2 chapters. There's a chapter on water resources, which is actually quite extensive, and there's another chapter on the natural environment. And if you're looking at the number of strategies, these 2 chapters make up quite a few of those 80 pages of that document. And I think that's something to be proud of because we do really care about our natural environment here in Spokane. Some of the things that we talk about in the plan are water conservation and drought response measures. We're looking at access to green space and increasing our urban canopy because we know that trees help provide shade and it's a way to adapt to a warmer climate. And we're also looking to protect the biodiversity in our area. So what can the city do? What's the role of the city? The city's a pretty big organization. We have over 2,000 employees. And I think that it's really important for us to lead by example. And some of the things that we've been doing lately, one of the things that it's been really hopeful for me is that the city has been working on its Green Fleets plan. It's a 5 to 8 year plan to decarbonize the city's fleets. We're also looking at ways to make our buildings more energy efficient. And how are we reducing water at our own properties? And in a minute, I'll share a picture of one of our campaigns. We're also asking people at the city, whether you're just not just, because I am just a staff member, but the staff and directors and managers at the city to really think about how their departments can participate and lead in the region. And the way that the city can be a leader, is by advocating at the state and federal level, as well as providing community solutions for the public to participate. So what's next? First, we're looking to identify quick actions. These are the low or no cost actions with broad community support. And I think one of those actions is water conservation. My colleague Kristen Zimmer at the Water Department has been working really hard on the WaterWise program for Spokane. I highly recommend you go check it out. There's lots of freebies out there, so if you're looking for ways to conserve water, please check that website out. The second thing we're looking to do, there are over 200 individual actions listed in the plan. And so what we're looking to do is to create a short list of priority actions for a short-term implementation. So these are generally actions with high impact and available funding sources over the next 2 to 5 years. There is a fair amount of money coming from the federal infrastructure package, so we're hoping that we will become poised to take advantage of some of those financial opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, it's really important that the city is not doing this work alone. This is why we are already reaching out to organizations like SNAP to help address energy efficiency and weatherization in low-income neighborhoods. And just over the past 2 months, a group of regional transportation leaders have started meeting to ask how we might create a unified vision for clean transportation here in Spokane. Lastly, we need your help. The most important thing that you as individuals can do to take action on climate is to talk about it. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be here with you today, and I've had so many great conversations with all of you, and I've heard other conversations, so you're already doing the good work. This is a photograph of one of our fire stations. They decided to not water their lawn last year because we were in an exceptional drought. And so the water department, Kristen, designed these signs. It says, "Go Gold to Save Blue," and put them out in the yards at the fire departments who are choosing to conserve water. If any of you want one of those signs for your yard, please contact me. I have several of them at my desk. So I already talked a little bit about what's next, but what's really important about this slide is that website. Sustainable Spokane is a tool that's provided to you by City Council as a way to go and for individual households, whether you're a renter or a homeowner, to go and find ways in which you can reduce your impact, whether it's energy efficiency or water efficiency. And many of those strategies also have cost savings associated with them, so please check out that website. Now I'd like to take you back to the river for a minute. This is an awe-inspiring image, and it's an aerial photo of the Little Salmon River on the Waikiki Trail. where the Spokane tribe released 50 Chinook salmon into the river last summer after a 111-year absence. The photo was taken by Nicholas James, who's the drone pilot for the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. At the time of the salmon release, Monica Tenasket, Tribal Council Secretary for the Spokane Tribe of Indians, extended this invitation. She said, "I ask people to think of the thing you love the most, or the person that you love the most. That is how you should treat the water. That is how you should treat the land, with love." I invite you to take a moment to consider, who is that person that you love the most, and how will you extend that love that you have for them to our land and water? Monica's words are powerful. The rock and basalt of these lands are in my bones. The air in my lungs is the exhale of the ponderosa pine, and the same water that flows through the Spokane River also flows through my veins. It flows through your veins too. This place is interconnected to my very being and to yours as well. When we talk about environmental health and protection, we are talking about our very own existence, the existence of our children, and the existence of future generations. That is why it's so vital for us to support environmental conservation and to support climate action, not just at a cursory level, but to support it deeply, and to ask our community leaders to dig deep and truly invest into our future. I have a personal vision statement that guides my work. It says that I am committed to creating conditions for a more inclusive, equitable, and regenerative society. And one of the ways I do this work is through building relationships. This includes remembering my relationship to the earth. How will you remember your relationship to the earth? Thank you.